Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 to What If RWBY Was a Faunus? Where we last left off, RWBY was about to meet Weiss, but she realized she was a, Weissney, so she got scared and ran away before Weiss could tell her off. And so, as RWBY gets away, Weiss turns around and she's like, "Where did she go?" And she's like, I don't have time for this." So she grabs her bags and she grabs her bags and walks off. So we cut back to RWBY, and as she's walking, and also another note, in this, because I'm changing some things about Faunuses that you'll find out later, but just let you know that if it doesn't go by canon, stuff with Faunus, I didn't want to change a few things that I got some ideas from some fics I was reading, so just getting that out of the way right now. So as she's walking and looking around in the entrance, she's like, and she's like, oh, and she's in the courtyard, and RWBY's like, oh, I better find Yang or go to the main hallway to get initiation over with. And she looks around, she's like, where am I? And as she's looking around, she picks up a set from her nose. She's like, and it's a strong set, and she smells another Faunus around. So she's looking around, and she finds Blake just in the corner reading a book, and RWBY walks up to Blake, and she's like, excuse me. And Blake looks up from the book. She's like, yeah, can I help you? He's like, do you know your way to the orientation room? And Blake is like, yeah, I just came from there. It was a little loud, so I walked out to read the book while everything got settled. And RWBY gives a smile. It's like, well, it's the sorry. She's like, well, it's nice to meet. She's nervous, and she's like, well, can you point out the way? And Blake's like, sure. And Blake kind of is sweating at this because she's nervous in front of RWBY, and also, and RWBY's like, she's like, so can you point the way? Blake is like, oh yeah, I'll just show you. She gets in front of the book and starts walking towards orientation. And when they get into the room, RWBY meets up with Yang. She's like, she turns to Blake. Oh, she's like, thank you, and she runs up to Yang. And we cut to Blake reaction with everything. She kind of quickly walks around the corner, leans against the wall again, puts her hand to her chest, and lets out a brief sigh. She's like, I have to be careful, keep my guard up around her. You probably realized that she's thinking that this is what Blake is thinking. She's like, she probably realizes that I am a Faunus. I never thought I would meet Alpha in my, besides people in the White Fang. There are only a few alphas there. I have to keep my eye on her. See what she could be dangerous for my. It's not Blake's plan, but she just wants to avoid RWBY because she doesn't want to be caught up with whatever RWBY has, because RWBY is like an alpha Faunus. So if she really wanted to, like, alphas has this like sense about them. So let me explain alphas a little bit. So alphas are very rare in the Faunus world. They're only like to like high end like basically alpha animals. So like wolves and stuff like that. And if RWBY really wanted to, she gave an order to Blake, and like she activated like some of her alpha like aura, I could say, or her alpha abilities, kind of like a thing that alphas could do, like intimidated them to listen. And Blake kind of would have no choice but to listen if the urge to listen is strong enough. So say like, so just for it won't be confusing, to say like RWBY like ordered Blake to like kill someone or something like that, which she wouldn't, but like this is explaining the power of the alpha. And she could order Blake to do it, and Blake could resist the order, but it kind of goes against the nature, and it kind of hurts a little bit to disobey the order. And like if Blake disobeys the order, RWBY can put more influence to make Blake listen to the order, and so eventually Blake would have to do the order. Kind of like a weird brainwashing thing, but not really. It'll get less confusing as time goes on. But yeah, RWBY's kind of like an alpha. So with that out of the explanation over, we'll get back to the story. So yeah, Blake is kind of worried. She's like, I have to keep my guard up. And so, yeah, now we cut back to Ruby and Yang. And Ruby's like, Rosalind's like, Yang, how can you, why did, she's like, why did you leave me? She's like, I ran into someone important um today. And Yang's like, oh, hey, baby sis, sorry I left you. I had to run into friends. You know how it is. And so Yang's like, well, who did you run into? Ruby's like, goes up, like, gives her a gesture to um come over, and Ruby whispers into Yang's ear. She's like, I ran into a schnee. Ugh, I can't say that word. Yeah. So you gotta be careful. They're bad news. Yang just nods and understands that, and she's like, yeah, well, I'll keep an eye out. Oh, I won't let anything bad happen to you. You know that. It was like, yeah, just in case. If she gets a serious look, she's like, we have to. I'm going to have to keep more my guard up. But on the better news, I ran into another Faunus, but she's also hiding her uh um traits just like me. Um, sorry, a little tired. So, and she gives the description of Blake, and while they're having this conversation, husband walks on the podium. Everyone becomes quiet, does his speech, and he does his speech, and Ruby's like, it's kind of weird. He's not really as charismatic as I thought he would be. Well, she's thinking, he probably has to do this same old speech 100 times with the students every year. So it might be get old. So we're just gonna cut to the night. And Ruby is writing a letter back home, and Yang's like, oh, are you writing a love letter? And, Ruby just shakes her head. She's like, no, Yang, you know I want to focus on I want to focus on my career. I don't have time for relationships. And she's like, no, I'm running home back to dad and seeing how he's doing, telling him that we're doing okay. And she's like, in the glimpse of her eye, she's like looking. She points over. She's like, that's the other girl I was talking about. He's like, and he's like, well, you don't even know her name? And she's like, no, I just met her once. Sorry. I'm trying to adjust it. And yeah, so Ruby's like, I just met her once. And it's like, well, and Yang's like, well, let's introduce ourselves properly. And he's like, RWBY's like, I don't really want to. I kind of want to get to sleep. Who knows what the team selection is going to be like. And Yang's like, oh, nonsense. And she grabs RWBY by the, so she doesn't grab her by the arm, she just picks up RWBY and tosses her over her shoulder. She's like, you can't squirm out of this. We're gonna be at this school for 4 years. You might as well make some friends. And RWBY's like, can you please just put me down? And she's kicking and hollering, kind of stirring up a little ruckus. People are kind of staring a little bit. And Yang picks RWBY up and puts her down in front of Blake. And Blake's like, looks up and she's like, oh, it's you. You're the girl that got lost. And RWBY just chuckles a little bit. He's like, yep, Ruby Rose. And she holds her hand. Nice to meet you. Blake holds her hand out to shake her hand, and she's like, Blake Belladonna, nice to meet you. And RWBY's like, oh, what book are you reading? And Blake explains that it's like the book with two people fighting over one soul. And RWBY's like, oh, that's cool. I don't think I ever read that one before. I read a lot of books. One of my favorites are the stories about the four maidens. And Bug's like, yeah, I like them too, but I'm not big into fairy tales. Life isn't like one. Life could be hard. And RWBY's like, well, I know that. But that's why I wanted to go to school. To make some people's lives less terrible. And she gives a smile to Blake. It's like, well, it was nice meeting you, but I think we should all go to bed. And she goes up to Blake's ear and whispers something. She's like, don't worry, I'll keep your secret if you keep mine. And she pulls back and gives Blake a wink, and they go to all of them. RWBY turns away, goes to bed. Yang has their little introduction. She goes to bed. Blake is kind of stunned a little bit from that interaction, but she shakes it off. She kind of smiles a little bit, and then she goes to bed. And we're going to cut to the next day, where they get the teams and Osmond's there. It's like, okay, the first person you lock eyes with will be your partner for the next 4 years. Good luck, and stay alive. This is the same test from like this show, so I'm not bothering explaining what's gonna happen. So as they're all being launched off, John is like, is there any parachutes or anything? What's the landing? And he gets launched off. He's like, Stretchy. And the husband's like, I love my job. As takes a sip of tea. And we're getting 20 minutes in. So, I'm just gonna call it right now. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this story, please subscribe. Events are going to start changing in the next episode a little more. So thank you all for listening. If you like this video, gives us a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you again for all the support. Have a good night, and everyone stay safe out there. Goodbye.